from 22 to 52, 30 years I've been in the male stripper business.
You're going into a room and there's sheets everywhere. I would be thinking that was a hit.
Yo, I don't know if you ever seen this movie called American Psycho.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
So remember he used to put plastic all around his apartment? A different girl Monday, different girl Tuesday, different girl Wednesday, different girl Thursday. Revolving, sometimes 2 a day.
How are you feeling when some man's having a wank behind you though? That's a bit gay, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, I'm looking at her and $2,000 and I'm like, I got to get through this. It started out just calling you to dance. And then when I got there, it was like, we want to do this scene. And the scene, you know, was the baby oil stuff that everybody knows, highly publicized. I'll put baby oil on her, she put it on me.
How much were you charging?
Bro, and so here's the part about it I'm mad. I was charging the same price to dance. I was getting like $150. I was the cheapest escort you could find.
Cheap hooker, bro.
Cuckold scenario where he's watching and he's a part of it. She said that she was doing that stuff against her will, but that's not what I experienced. There may be an insecurity with Diddy's size, and that's why he hires guys to kind of make that up. And I hear him say, his asshole looks tight. And I'm like, what?
This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring program that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live.
And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got the Punisher. How are we, brother?
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on the show. A big part of the Diddy case used to be a male entertainer, having sex with Cassie, Diddy's watching, like mad stuff. You've also released a book. What's the book called?
Oh, the book's called In Search of Freezer Meat. Freezer Meat is a metaphor. It's really about it's my life centered around being this sexual guy, and everything is based on me as a sexual being. And then as we get older as men, you start to develop the erectile dysfunction issues, like things don't work the same. So I went on this quest because I was not going out like that. And I did everything and anything to correct my physical issue. But then I ended up finding out it's a much bigger mental issue and how it affects guys. And so I decided to write the book that I would have needed when I was going through this struggle. And it's helping a lot of guys, man. So it's called In Search of Freezer Meat. Again, it's my life story. And then it teaches men how to understand what's going on with their bodies when you're struggling sexually, how it affects you more mentally and emotionally than it does physically. But as men, we have no place to outlet that. And then it gives you the solutions and the understandings to how to solve it.
Where can people buy this book?
Oh, it's located on Amazon, Audible, Google Play, Apple Books, pretty much anywhere.
It's one of those things that people don't want to discuss.
Listen, tell me about it, man. Like when I was going through it, oh, sorry about that.
That's okay, brother.
When I was going through it, I literally had no outlet, man. And I made mistakes doing the wrong things for years, buying the wrong things, trying the wrong things. You got people, which I hate, you go into a problem and some idiot that's probably 25 years old. Oh, just eat right. Like, listen, man, if it was just as simple as eating right, you wouldn't see a Viagra Cialis commercial every other uh, break in a sporting event. You know, guys really need help, but there's no, other than here, take a pill, there's no resource that guides us the right way. So, you know, between the book, I also have a community. It's called Your Hard Reset, pun intended, right? Your Hard Reset, but it's yourhardreset.com, and it's where you can come get information, you know, a place where you can speak freely, a safe place to, you know, get through these issues, because we're not helping each other, man. You know, men, there's no outlet. It's a shameful place. And we need that dynamic to try to, you know, get through, especially as we age, man, because there's nothing more emasculating than wanting to have an opportunity with a woman and can't, you know, and you kind of just sweep it under and just deal with it. But that was a no-no for me. I got it corrected, and I'm helping a lot of dudes do the same.
Before we get into all the madness, brother, I always like to go back to the start with my guest to get more of a bit of understanding about you, where you grew up and how it all began.
All right, so I grew up in Harlem, New York City, right in the midst of the crack era, man. So it was rough. It was rough, but you know what? You know, when you're a kid, you don't kind of really know the difference. A lot of violence, a lot of difficulties, but I got into sports. I avoided it as much as possible, so I can't say that it's I was a victim to it or anything to some degree. You just do what you do and you get through it, man.
How was family life?
So my parents were very young. They had me at 15 and 17. So it was one of those scenarios where my mom was still a kid. And, you know, my dad went to the Army and they never got back together. So I was pretty much raised by my grandparents. It was a big household. But, you know, again, it was in a struggling neighborhood. Most of my uncles, who were like my older brothers, they were in the street. They were selling drugs and these type of things. And again, I just, luckily I found sports. I got big into basketball and kept my focus there and kind of avoided the pitfalls.
It's funny because I always say this, but every sex worker, every porn star, OnlyFans, male and female, they all come from the broken home.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. I think what happened with me, in terms of getting into sex work or whatever, is I started sex very early at 14 years old. And so growing up in the city, the young boys, I don't know about with you, but there was such an emphasis on having sex and getting sex to the point where I was lying about having sex from the time I was like 11. Yeah, I did it. You know what I'm saying? Like just making these excuses. So it was so much emphasis that you had to do it. And then, you know, I don't know about you, I found the VHS tapes of the porn and I'm watching that. Like, you know, I got to just make it happen. So once it happened early, at that early age, and for me, it was a traumatic experience because I was traumatized about sex before I even had it. Like my best buddy, we're both 14. He might have had sex a couple of months before me, and we're like at the after school program. So he goes into a staircase with a girl, comes out 30 seconds later with the biggest smile on his face I ever seen. And no lie, she walked out right behind him like, he was terrible. It was trash. He lasted 2 minutes. And he got this label for like the entire school year. So his name was Will, and his nickname ended up being Whack Dick Will, right? So up to this day, people probably see him, yo, it's Whack Dick Will, right? So 30, 45 days later, I get my chance, and I lasted 15 seconds, right? And I was scared to come to school. So I ended up with this crazy performance anxiety, over-sexualized, like, thing, like initially with sex. And I guess it kept me so focused on it that ending up transferring into like a male stripping, male sex work type of thing was kind of like inevitable, man.
I was exposed to porn 9, 10 years old, very young. We used to have like a 10-minute Freeview channel, Television X or something it was called. It was like 10 minutes free you used to get. But we also used to get a catalogue. Did you ever get catalogues here? It was like bras and pants. Like, there's like I used to look at the fucking pictures of the women in their
Yeah,
past
yeah, yeah,
lives,
yeah, the
like,
magazines,
very young, but
yeah.
it's peer pressure. So even though you're lying about sleeping with girls, then men in their adulthood still lie.
Still
So it
lie.
goes through their whole life of this pressure of trying to sleep with people, pretending to sleep with people. On this planet, one third of men are virgins. Like, men really struggle. I think women hold the key for that, which just the way the life is. But a lot of men really try and live up to something that they're not.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're animals, right? So think about, if you look at lions, right? The most strong, dominant male lion is the one that mates with the females. And from an animalistic scenario, we're always in that competition. We're always in a mating competition. It's just the world has made the competition so difficult between what you need to have financially, what things are supposedly advertised that what are impressive to women. And if you get caught up in that, it's kind of like a very difficult place to flourish. And then you got all your buddies, everybody's in this competition. And if you're not winning, you're lying, right? There's some guys just making the facade of they're doing or what they're not doing. And then it gets worse because we got the red pill, we got the Andrew Tate, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Andrew Tate fan. But if you listen to his message, it's for like 2-3% of the guys. You know, what he tells you in terms of being a boss, being a high earner, being these things is definitely what men should strive for. But if that's the way you equate your value, which that's what I did, you're going to always be in like a never ending battle to try to really sustain women, because when you make that your value, that's all they see you as. And then you become like a walking ATM and they just use you and just walk over you.
I think that's a losing battle. I believe in masculinity. I believe in being strong. I believe in exercising to some element. I believe trying to eat a bit cleaner. But no matter your level of status or fortune or fame, there's people in this world who have nothing. I interviewed Bruce Bryan just before you, 29 years in prison. He was saying freedom is in the mind. So a lot of these people chase private planes and money. It's all an illusion. If you're supporting your family, no matter the level of income, you're winning. You are fucking winning, no matter what the outside noise says, social media says, because everybody struggles and everybody tries to find that balance. So I think it's important to get the message across. As long as you're providing and doing the right thing without harming anyone, you're winning, no matter the level or how much income you have in your bank. It's great to have money. It's great to have elements of freedom where you can buy the materialistic stuff, but it's not where you're going to find your completion. It's not where you're going to find completion in multiple partners, multiple girlfriends, multiple wives. It does not make you happy. I've had multiple partners and I was more lost than ever, and I struggle now to sustain one. I don't know if that's because of all the madness over the last 30 years as well, but soul ties is important. Sexual energy exchange, all these things take into consideration. Even a woman who's had more than 5 sexual partners, our chances of having a more stable marriage is over 60-70%. More likely for her getting a divorce if she's had more than 5 partners.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, we're not educated enough on this stuff though, and I never realised this just to the last 2-3 years to really understand it a bit more.
Yep. Listen, man, you're spot on with like the community and stuff that I'm building. That's what I'm trying to educate guys on. Like you figured it out, but you lived the life also. Most guys. So what you were able to figure out in terms of multiple partners and multiple wives and that type of life, most guys don't get the opportunity to do it and say it's not for me, right? It's something they're trying to reach, and then now you're chasing that constantly, and then you don't know what's right in front of you. And forget us, right? We can be grounded easy. Men are simple. It's also the mindset of women, because women are being told our value is not what we can provide from just a basic human need, because, when masculinity was defined as a provider, this was at a time where women couldn't work. It was dangerous for women to be in a world without a man, right? And now you have law enforcement. Now women are high earners, especially here in the United States. So now a man's provision is not just safety and just a roof over the head and food in the fridge. Now provision has been turned into trips to Bali, and expensive handbags and $300 dinners, right? Like, so our provider from a basic scenario is turned to for a lot of women as being basically just spoiling them with unnecessary just extras and of lifestyle. And it's terrible to be reduced to that. But then we have like a big message telling guys, well, get the money, get this so you can be that. And I was a guy that got the money, got some status. And when I was reduced to that, like I said, you feel more lost than ever. And so I see a lot of guys who settle down in decent lives. And then, we all know that guy that has a decent career, decent lifestyle, decent whatever. And then he's married and him and his wife sleep in separate rooms and she ain't had sex with him in 3 years or so, and he's lost. And especially if he's struggling with his sexuality, he's probably in a low place of depression and he doesn't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
So
But I think we're living in a day where women want to be boss-like. The roles have reversed slightly. Women are want to be more masculine. Men are becoming more feminine. So it's hard for a woman to be feminine if there's not enough masculine men. So the roles kind of reverse. And I think the family values are coming down. People aren't having 4 and 5 kids. It's all 1 kid. You'll tend to see a lot of these boss-like women in their 30s and 40s, big office, big car. They're feeling unfulfilled because they've chased that career, not realising feminism. For me, man provides and protects. Women is for the love, is for the nurture, is they come home and it's a nice cooked meal and raising their children. That's all changed. We give our children to the system. Women now want to work. Men want to work. Both are paying taxes. Both are stressed. So that they're not really raising their kids. The system's raising the kids. So everything, I do think maybe in the next 20, 30 years, everything will change again. I think a lot of people are waking up to it, because I think women do themselves a disservice by working. I think they're better than that. I think we're living in a day where there's so much divide, there's so much hatred. They've got men and women fighting. Who's better than each other? We both need each other. I believe the universe revolves around women. I always say that. I believe they are the source, they are the centre. How the women can give birth is unbelievable. It's majestic, it's magical. A man gets a flu and he's dying. But we can't handle that. I believe men build the world. I also believe women create it. And I think there's roles for both. I think we all have masculine and feminine. And I think our roles fit perfectly. That's why God created us. That's why we're perfect for each other. But social media, dating apps, porn, drugs, alcohol, it's destroyed the men of many. It's destroyed the minds of many, and we're so full of static and noise now.
Yeah, but it's not just that; it's the message, right? So message. You ever heard the saying "happy wife, happy life," right?
Mm.
So, which is, the saying is fine, but for some reason, happy wife, happy life has been turned into kind of a scenario where a man is just catering to his wife's needs, which I'm not going to say anything is wrong with that, but you have to think about it. Have you heard the phrase hypergamy?
No.
Okay, so hypergamy is by nature what women operate on. Women always seek a mate that they literally view as better than them. Not even equal, better. So you could look at kind of like a celebrity scenario. I always like using this example. You'll take somebody like Kanye West, who's a billionaire, and he'll grab and make Amber Rose his girlfriend straight out of a strip club. And you'll take Beyonce, who has $500 million, and she could have any top model guy, any, gorgeous dude, whatever, but she picks Jay-Z, a guy with more money than her. And that's usually a scenario that a woman by nature, she looks for hypergamy. So any woman who approached you and got into a relationship with you, I want to say 95% of the time, because you take some women going through something, she just latches on to somebody. But women always view the man they're with as above her. And what happens with this kind of happy life, happy wife type of mindset that's being drilled to guys is when you meet the woman, she's infatuated with you, she's looking up to you, she wants to be with you, and then you show her love back with whatever you want, babe, whatever you need. This is for you, this is that, whatever, and you start to serve her. Now, in a scenario where she's looking for a hypergamous scenario, you can't be in that role and serve her at the same time. It throws off the dynamic. And for any guy out there and any guy out there listening, if you'll notice, if you keep going out of your way to try to please your woman and make her happy constantly, she's never satisfied. It's never satisfied. It's not enough you can do because they operate on feelings. So the real dynamic is you have to find a way to keep yourself in a leadership scenario, and where you care for her, you do right by her, but there's that scenario where she's pursuing you. And women are hunters, very extremely competitive. You really know the nature of a woman. And when they want you, every guy knows that woman that wants you, you can tell, and she's going to do what she has to do, but you have to maintain that dynamic. And that's what the problem is. Men don't know how to maintain that dynamic. That's what I'm trying to teach. That's what I'm trying to help with. And that dynamic will save your relationship, save your marriage, and just make you better as a man if you don't conform, because society is brainwashing us to believe that this kind of serving, catering nature is what makes women happy, and it actually throws them off.
They're saying up to 80% now of divorce, though, is from women.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you got to realize when this tripped me out, right? So I used to date like the hottest. I was like the pickiest guy. Like I used to say Grey Poupon. I'm only got Grey Poupon girls, like the highest level girls. And so my last relationship was with a woman that she was cute, but I would honestly say she was well below my standards, right? But I'm thinking, you know what, man? These hot girls are too difficult. I'm gonna get me an average girl. She should appreciate whatever. And what I noticed was I went through the same exact problems with the average girl as the super hot girl, because as men, the woman we pick, we validate them. So, for example, if a king marries a peasant, she's a queen. If a queen marries a peasant, he is not a king.
How so?
It doesn't work like that. If a queen just marries whoever the king chooses to make his wife, she automatically becomes a queen, right? If the queen picks a random guy, he does not become the king. He becomes like the queen's regent, something like that. It doesn't work like that. So what I realize is because when you pick a woman as your mate, you validate her. And me picking this average girl validated her. Well, if he can get all these hot girls and he picked me, I must be one of those. You know what I'm saying? And then I started getting the same exact issues, same exact problems. And I realized it's not the woman I pick. It's me. It's me relinquishing my power and my true masculinity as a leader within my relationships with women that I have to maintain, or I'm going to get the same problem over and over again.
What did you do after school?
So school, listen, I've been in the male dancer business since I was 22 years old. So I went to college briefly. I wanted to be a school teacher. I even taught kindergarten for a brief period of time. As crazy as it sounds, the Punisher, right? And while working as an assistant teacher, it was one of those scenarios where I got hired and I was supposed to go back to school and get my degree. I got hooked up with being a male dancer. And in New York City at the time in the mid-90s, you were making a lot of money. I was making so much money, I wasn't even picking up my paycheck. And lo and behold, my popularity took off. And now I had like kids' mothers like knowing that's the stripper guy from school. And it became kind of like a little conflict, nothing negative, but it was just, I think my principal and everything was kind of weirded out that this popular household name male stripper worked in the school, and I just ended up resigning. And from 22 to 52, 30 years, I've been in the male stripper business.
What was it like doing it for the first time? How did you get into it, actually?
So I played basketball. So I became a stripper from a breakup. I was with my high school sweetheart. I was in love, thought I was getting married. We moved in together, and she just came home one day and said, listen, I'm about to start working in the female strip club, and, take it or leave it. And I had the heart attack. No, you're not, but she really didn't give me a choice. And so I stayed with her. And then a year after that, she just came home one day and said, hey, look, I'm meeting all these guys. I feel like I'm tied down. I want my freedom. And she dumped me. And I was completely heartbroken, like devastated. And my 21-year-old mind at the time was like, I'll show her. She's going to be a stripper. I'm going to be a stripper too. And then she'll see how it feels. And it was really an effort to get my girlfriend back. I wanted to make her jealous and her see other girls into me. And it was a guy I played basketball with, and he happened to be pretty big in the stripping business. I didn't know him personally, but somebody introduced me to him. And at the time, I probably made the most terrible deal because I had a brand new laptop. And mind you, this is mid-90s. Laptops weren't popular, I had a brand new laptop, and I ended up trading him my laptop just for a hookup to be at a male dance. And all he did was kind of take me to a club and introduce me to a couple of people. And it was the best deal I ever made, man. 30 years later, a laptop for an introduction in a 30-year career.
How do you think that breakup shaped you?
So that breakup, it sent me on a path of, because I went into the business hurt, right? So I didn't want to connect. Men, when we go through breakups, we don't handle them well. That's one thing women got us beat on. Their emotional stuff, they eat some ice cream and glass of wine and cry a little bit, and we kind of bottle it up. So it took me years.
I don't think we ever truly get over heartbreak, men. When you've been broken-hearted by a woman, I don't think we ever really get over it. We hold that bitterness and sort of, I can speak for myself. I've been in fucking many relationships, but I have 3 kids, 3 different women. But heartache from the past and old relationships from years ago, I still think about those exes from 20 years ago. It's crazy.
Well, but you hit it on the head, because we don't allow ourselves to heal. Our masculine energy says, get over it. Get over it, and you bury it somewhere, and you just cover it in voids with, success and conquest of other women and this, that, and other, but you never really process it. And you have to. You have to. Do you know this whole conversation? It literally hits back to my community, like the yourhardreset.com. It is just how you process this stuff, because if you don't, that stuff just carries with you. And what I was going to say is, each time you try to connect, it's less and less and less in terms of trying to bond. I'm sure with your history, even if
empty sex, it's empty sex, bro.
Disconnected,
robotic,
completely
don't give a
disconnected,
fuck.
completely
Get the little reward in the brain.
Completely
few minutes, couldn't give a fuck.
And sometimes, no matter how great the sex was, whatever, if you feel worse after the fact, there's an empty feeling that I had to go through all of this to realize and understand, man, and then figure out what really matters. So yeah, that breakup, along with others, because I became where I wanted the connection, I wanted the love and connection from a woman, but I didn't want the vulnerability of the possibility of getting hurt again. So, I don't know about yourself, but what I would do is I would have great opportunities with women, but because I don't want to be hurt, I want 100% of her love, affection, and connection, while I'm giving her 50% of mine, because I'm quietly protecting
the other 50.
I'm protecting the other 50s. And now that's a lopsided scenario. So she's gonna eventually get frustrated because you know when somebody's giving you that 100%. You know, so she's gonna get frustrated, is gonna throw off what she gives, and then you're gonna have these lopsided kind of unfulfilling connections that's gonna fizzle out every few years, or if you're lucky enough, you can just carry it along in some type of surface way.
But it is crazy, brother. Like, treat them mean, keep them keen. It is a thing, you know, when you're not as eager as them and they chase and chase. But as soon as you drop that barrier and start giving them what they want, sometimes, like you says, it's them who can switch off because they're not getting that. It's like a cat and mouse. There's got to be one sort of leader. And I believe men just want to feel respected. I think women just want to feel safe. I think when you have these two components, I think you automatically fall into your natural roles. But it's so difficult to have a steady relationship now with anybody can be got to. Now with social media, there's no privacy. Everybody can be. It's just, I don't know, I think it's just a weird society now with dating. I think people are really going to struggle also as a future because there's no compromising.
Yeah, well, listen, that first point you made, you just said hypergamy, man. You just said to chase and chase and chase, and then when you get caught, you let your guard down, something goes off. And that you, as crazy as it sounds, you have to maintain that guy that she was chasing. But as most men, for whatever reason, we get caught and then we become this cupcake, right? And the cupcake's a turnoff, man. Look, I'm not proud to say, but I gathered this information because in my dysfunctional space, I got to the point where I didn't want to connect. So I would only date involved women. I would only date involved, married. Sounds terrible, but that was my way of protecting myself. And so what I saw was a pattern that all of these women had great men that in their love for their women, they kind of softened and changed and became catering, and then they became a turnoff. And then they actually then look for another guy to chase, and that guy would be me.
Because there's a saying of a man would give up his happiness for his family, but a woman would give up her family for her happiness.
That is 100% fact, man. 100% fact.
Do you think we can give women too much?
I think every guy that's having a problem with his woman has given her too much.
Look at Tom Brady, one of the most successful men on the planet, and his wife is shagging the tennis coach.
Like I said, man.
That's a high value man, works hard, provides for his family. Like, I don't know what goes behind closed doors. Maybe he's a prick, I don't know. But with his status and who he is, a leader, winning so many Super Bowls, and his wife who's cheating. I think there's a player who plays soccer for Roma. I forget his name. Oh, Totti, handsome man, stuck with this one club his whole life. He could have played with any other club in the world, but stuck with his club for the loyalty for them. His wife was also cheating. So these are high value men, multi-millionaires, successful at their craft, but their partners are still cheating.
Yeah, man. And like I said, it's I'm telling you, man, it's not what you have. It's not your bank account. It's not your material. Is not even necessarily just how great you are in bed. It is a dynamic of how you relate to a woman that's lost because everything that we see in terms of keeping a woman happy is really the wrong information. It's catering to them in a way that actually makes them not value as much. And it is really hard because what I'm trying to instill in men is not necessarily, it can be almost looked at as toxic masculinity. You know, they always want to, when men try to empower ourselves, now it's negative, you know? So I'm trying to push it the right way because women are supposed to be loved and nurtured and taken care of, but you have to understand the dynamic. So here's an analogy I like to use, right? Look at the universe, right? So in the center of the universe, you have the sun, right? And in some ways of expressing it, they call women the earth, right? And your earth. And the earth revolves around the sun. And it's very simple. If the sun is given, if the earth is in the right proximity of the sun, you get 80 degree days. The weather's wonderful, beautiful. And if the sun is giving the earth the wrong energy, then you get winter blizzards, So the sun is you as a man, and the energy you give your woman dictates what you get back. Where a lot of men make a mistake is you meet a woman and you flip the dynamic. You make the woman the sun. You become the earth, and then you start revolving around her and revolving around her needs. And it's the wrong energy. That is not the space that works for her.
See, when you're sleeping with married women, does that not make you more disconnected because they're untrustworthy?
No, believe it or not, man. I think almost every woman has the capability.
Yeah, I always say this. Listen, I think every woman is single. It just depends who's asking.
It just depends who's asking, or it depends on who she's with and how he's managing that relationship. There are a lot of married. So here's something you hear women say that you never hear a guy say. I'll see a female friend and I'll say, what happened to that guy you were dating, whatever the case may be? And this has been said to me. You know what? He was just too nice. Like, what are you talking about? But that tells you something. That tells him, I've never heard a guy say that. Oh, I had to stop dating her. She was too nice. I've heard women say that all the time. And I had ex-girlfriend tell me that. You weren't rough enough. You weren't hard on me. You just let me do anything I wanted to do. It's like there is a dynamic in terms of, hypergamy, that thing I said, where you have to maintain this leader, this highly sought out way. And it has to be really no negotiations, man. You have to set hard boundaries of yourself as a man that are unwaverable, that are non-negotiable, that has to be adjusted to. And you, early on in the relationships, you have to respect your boundaries. If there's, because there's always a push and pull with when things go left with a woman, and it's something she wants you to do, and then you don't do it, and then she gives you attitude or whatever, and then you change and you do it. Then there's something else, then she gives you attitude and you do it, and then progressively it's kind of breaking you down into molding you to what she believes is what she wants. But you can't mold into what a woman wants because they operate on feelings. So what she wants today is going to be completely different in like 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like the range of emotions they go through from month to month, you can't manage that, man. It's impossible.
What was your sort of daily routine like as a male performer? What did you have to do?
So, man, as a main performer, it was kind of like a sweet gig, man. Like starting out, you don't really know what, if as a straight guy, you don't know what women are into, right? You got to kind of figure it out. So once you get a little niche, I always went about business as I'm doing bachelorette parties, birthday celebrations. So it's just really about collectively making all the ladies have fun. If you go into a scenario really trying to be extra sexy and turn everybody on, everybody's not going to be into you, and that's not a cup of tea. So in terms of main performing, it's easy. You just do a routine that everybody from the 21-year-old girl, her first time at a show, to the 60th birthday celebration, you want to do a show that they all can watch and enjoy. But that works your benefit because, like I said earlier, women are competitive. So if you can go out there and you can put on a show that everybody universally likes, that's more women into you. And then women will compete because I want that guy. Look at it. Look at how they do fashion. One person gets a purse. This the new purse that's in. Everybody gets it. This new hairstyle comes out. Every woman gets it. They flock in a competitive scenario. We're doing eyelashes like this. We're doing lips. Everybody gets BBLs. It's a competitive nature. So when you can present yourself, even as a performer, all I had to do was present myself in a way where I was, forget what the performance was, but as long as it's universally enjoyed, then that created the competition.
What are you doing to perform? Like, I know a lot of the porn stars, they used to inject stuff into their dick and put like tie rings round it, and so they could keep the fucking. Do you have to do all that stuff?
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So I didn't inject anything. Injections is usually if you're trying to get size. As a male dancer, I used to use a pump. So you go into these little sex stores or whatever, and they have these things called penis pumps. And what a lot of people don't realize is if you take a penis pump and you put it on for a long period of time, 20, 30 minutes, it actually will pull blood into your penis. But if you keep it in there long enough, it'll bust the blood vessels, which sounds crazy, but it heals. It's not like really an issue. But bro, it will double the size of what you're working with. So illusion I used to do as a male dancer was I would put this pump on before I went out. It would swell me up from like a hot dog to a hot sausage. And then like the porn stars would say, we call the beefing up, where you get an erection and you take a piece of material and you tie it around the base, and now your erection is going to stay there. Not necessarily rock up, but it's like it's you almost 80%. But you go out to dance and you got this 80% hot sausage, right? And women think you're swinging, So I used to create this illusion, and it builds your reputation because, women talk, and I got this reputation of being this hung dude, and it was great for business, and it picked things up. So those are definitely tricks. Injections is something you can do down the line. I'm a fan of injections, but you got to do the right doctor. There's fat injections. Those not necessarily great, but they do the fillers, like the Juvederm, almost the same stuff they do in the face, and they can do it in your manhood, and it'll give you extra girth. And for those that don't know, that's really where women get pleasure from, the girth.
Where did the name The Punisher come from?
So, ironically, Punisher was a basketball nickname, man.
So that's not just being a fucking top shagger. They're just
it's
that basketball.
So listen, that's where the name originated. And I definitely tried to live up to the reputation. But yeah, it started as a basketball name, and then me going into male dance. I told you the guy who started me out was somebody I played basketball with. And the first time we went to a show, I picked some crazy name like he said, "What do you want to be called?" They called me a Caramel Mandingo, right? So it's crazy. And the whole night, the girls was like, "Mandingo, over here," and I was paying them no attention. So then at the end of the night, he was like, "Look, man, you don't answer to that other name. I'm just gonna call you Punisher till you figure out what you want your name to be, because we already call you that from the basketball court." And then I just stuck with it and made a whole character and everything out of it.
How many women do you actually think you've slept with?
Oh man, you're gonna have me on here looking nasty, right? I'll be completely honest with you, man. I have no idea. It got to the point where I don't even want to necessarily estimate, because I've been around, man. Like it's real. Like there's a lot of guys online trying to give advice about women and stuff like that. I'm telling you, man, look, I don't know what they've experienced and whatever, but man, I'm very, 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 I will say this, and this is crazy. Me and one of my buddies, we had started a competition, and it was like from January 1st, because somebody asked us this question and neither one of us was like, I don't know. So it was like, we're going to count. And we said we got from January 1st to Valentine's Day, which is 6 weeks. And he knocked on my door one day and was like, "I got 3 lined up. I'm going to blow you out this week." And he was at 21 and I was at 19. Different girls in 6 weeks. It was crazy, man. Like working as a male dancer in an industry where you're in a club with 500 women every weekend and they're all there to see you. I would just collect phone numbers Friday and Saturday night, and then a different girl Monday, different girl Tuesday, different girl Wednesday, different girl Thursday, revolving, sometimes 2 a day. And it was all for ego. Like, it was all like, you put them in this scenario where it's just an endless amount of
How many of
sex.
these women were married or had boyfriends?
I mean, at some point, I told you that's all I dated. And I actually did this thinking I'm being a good guy, right? Because I got to a point where I present as a very, very nice guy, right? Women can see that, aside from the extra sexual activity that they necessarily don't know about, they get to know me and they say this is a good guy, and then they get attached. At the end of the day, if you're sexually involved with a woman, and I'm not necessarily a one night stand guy. There's women that if she's a cool girl or whatever, I'll keep seeing her, and there would be a connection, and she would want more. And these single women, I knew I had no intention of it going anywhere serious. So I got to the point after breaking a couple of women's hearts, right, where they get attached and then they want more and I'm not interested. I was like, look, I'm not going to keep using these single women that really want to connect and find love and stuff just for my sexual enjoyment. So let me switch to a woman that she just wants sex. And I found out that doesn't help either. I would start dealing with married women, and believe it or not, once you get to a point of a sexual connection because of oxytocin, you ever heard of oxytocin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once that oxytocin connects, for those listening, oxytocin is a hormone that's released, and it's a bonding hormone. So anybody you have sex with on the regular, and especially if you lay up and watch TV and cuddle and all that, you release oxytocin and it starts to bond you. Now I fight against it, but even the married women would eventually try to have a full-fledged relationship with me while married or partnered. So it's no way around it. You just gotta really be in control of it. So any of you fellas listening, you ever had a girl you met and you was like, oh, this is gonna be a fun time girl, good time girl, and then you ended up marrying her? You know what I'm saying? Oxytocin got you,
Yeah, oxytocin, because even the women, when they're around you, they'll fall asleep because it's a love hormone. It makes them feel vulnerable. It makes them feel relaxed where they can just fall asleep. A lot of women, I think, just sleep easier if they feel that oxytocin and feel that sort of love.
Yeah, it's a serious, man. It's powerful.
When did you become a male escort?
So exactly when? So I didn't realize I was a male escort till I got indicted by the feds. I'm serious, man. I was in denial, right? So as a male dancer, you're gonna get propositioned, right? So, and how women proposition is never overt. It's never, hey, how much for sex, right? It's always, do you do one-on-ones? Do you do massages? And that's code for sex, right? So what I would do, I was a picky guy, a great poupon, right? I would get the girl to send me a picture. And if she was attractive, if she was hot or whatever, I'll go do the one-on-one, take the money, and it'll lead to sex. And dude, I swear to you, I'm a smart guy too. I'd never connected, bro, you doing prostitution, and when it became full-fledged, obviously, was when I got called by Cassie. And that was still almost similar to, because she called me to dance. It was never, like, we never had a conversation over the 2.5 years of how much for sex. It started out just calling you to dance. And then when I got there, it was like, we want to do this scene. And the scene, was the baby oil stuff that everybody knows, highly publicized. I'll put baby oil on her, she put it on me. And then it would almost be like a massage. And then, I don't know if this was by design, right? But it was never like, okay, now it's time for sex. It'll be like, well, do you want to finish? So it was presented to me as if it was my choice. So even in those scenarios, obviously I 100% acknowledge I was doing prostitution and escorting, but I was in this kind of bubble where I didn't really see it that way because I guess I never advertised myself as in exchange for sex. I was a dancer, and if dancers are going to get opportunities anyway, so I'm getting all this sex for free, and now I can get paid for it, and I just looked at it as a perk.
Do you think you could have been in denial with it?
In denial with Cassie? No, I
Not
mean,
being a male escort.
oh, 100%, man, 100%. That's what I'm trying to say. Like when I look back at it, I'm like, man, I was out here.
Being
I was out here.
How much were you charging?
Bro. And so here's the part about it. I'm mad. I was charging the same price to theirs. I was getting like $150. I was the cheapest escort you could find.
Cheap hooker, bro.
I know. I always joke about. I was the discount store escort. Because mind you, look, man, I was a picky guy. Any woman couldn't just call me and say how much. Even if I wanted to, I had a picky member. He'd be like, we ain't doing that. You know what I'm saying? So it was really cute. Like, you'll be surprised how many very attractive sexual women, very attractive, successful women pay for sex. You'd be 100% surprised. And it's because
But they've understood the mechanisms of get the man in, get their fun, and then straight back to work. They don't want the drama because relationships bring drama. You give so much energy to them. You completely lose yourself. So I think the successful women have maybe figured it out.
Yeah. And also, I think part of it is a very attractive, successful woman is intimidating. So a lot of the guys she would normally be interested in, they don't approach her. They don't try to connect. They don't try to speak to her. And the guys that do are usually the douchey guys. You know what I'm saying? So if women have needs, especially when you get to women. Women's sexual peak are in their late 30s, early 40s. And if they're divorced or single, or for whatever reason they don't have a consistent partner, they will 100% find a guy that has the makings and pay him for his time and have no problem with it.
So people, where did they get your number? Where was your number?
So I do, to be successful as a male dancer, you have to obviously advertise. So if you were in the New York City area and you typed in male strippers, New York City, male strip club or whatever, I had a website that came up, getpunished.com. And you would call me, I'll pick up the phone and, set something
Easy
up.
as that.
Easy as that, man.
Did you have any sort of celebrities beforehand? Obviously not mention names, but did you have any high profile celebrities beforehand?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But again, it wasn't to that nature where it was the husband paying, like at the time I thought the husband like creating a cuckold scenario where he's watching and he's a part of it. But
did you ever do anything like that beforehand where the husband's been there or the partner's been there behind the scenes?
No, man. I had one opportunity that I talked about in the book where I tried, but it was foreign to me. Like I didn't. It's very common now, and I still don't engage in it, other than that scenario, because it's a very awkward scenario. If you're not into like a swinger lifestyle or whatever the case may be, it's a very awkward scenario to have a male in the room while you're dealing with this woman. It's just too much stuff for me that goes through the mind because I'm going to question, is this guy straight? First of all, is he going to try to interact? Is he going to get jealous? Could there be an issue? Could it turn into something? And then just from a safety scenario, okay, if they're just hired me randomly, how many other guys have come through here and this stuff like that? So that scenario always wigs me out. When women would call me, my ego would just say, oh, it's because I'm amazing. You know what I'm saying? And not that she's calling multiple guys. Like I would believe I'm special. Like even in the Cassie scenario, I believed I was special. I was the only guy she was calling. And I created this story in my head that her husband, and then once I figured out Diddy is this guy that he's clearly going to have multiple women and multiple opportunities, and he has like a forever hall pass of dealing with women outside the relationship. And he kind of gave her, hey, look, I know it's unfair. You can pick a guy. And she picked me. And that's what I really thought until the trial.
So how did it all come about then? She's just picked your number and called you. Cassie's just called you.
Just called me, man. Just called me like a normal party. She said, hey, it's my birthday. My husband said I could hire an entertainer. Could you come and do a party? And I thought it was her and a group of friends. And when I actually showed up, she just opened the door in a bathrobe that clearly you can tell she was negging under. And listen, she is absolutely stunning, man, in person. Like, I'm a guy that I've worked in clubs full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women. It was like a different level of stunning, you know.
So what happened the first time you went through the doors with Cassie and Diddy?
Yeah, so I walk in. It's a dark hotel suite. Ironically, all the furniture was covered in sheets and stuff. And, you know, I came in, it was kind of odd. I at the time, I did not know Diddy was there. She opened the door and brought me in. It just seemed like it was just her. And I just tried to, it looked odd, but I just tried to, because I thought I was going to dance. And I said, hey, where do you want me to change into my dancing clothes? And she was like, look, I don't want you to dance. Then she explained how her and her husband like to do this sexy scene. And that was the baby oil. And we were going to take baby oil and put it on each other. And at some point, her husband was going to come out and watch from across the room. And that's exactly what happened. And the first time we didn't even have sex. We just kind of did this mutual baby oil exchange. And then she did the offer that I said earlier, which is, hey, do you want to finish? And I actually declined.
What does she mean by that? Come?
Yeah.
Where? In her? On her?
Well, at the time, there was no penetration or anything. Remember, I said the first time was just right. So she just said finish in general. And I just declined. So it didn't get to what finishing meant, because I was kind of like, okay, her husband's there. Like, I'm good. You know, this is for you guys, right? And I just left. And but then it was like, hey, I want to can I contact you again? And of course I said yes, because I got $2,000 for that.
What are you thinking though when you're going into a room and there's sheets everywhere? I would be thinking that was a hit.
Yo, I don't know if you ever seen this movie called American Psycho.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
So remember he used to put plastic all around his apartment? So when I walked in and I saw all the sheets on the furniture, I was like, oh, no. Some serial killer just called me in here. But
a serial killer's wife, a mafia guy's wife, isn't it, bro? Your time was caught up.
I was like, yo, what's all these sheets and stuff, man? But man, she was just, you know, if she wasn't as stunning, like, oh my God, I probably would have ran out of there. But it was just, you know, look, as a male entertainer, I've my entire life, I've gone from house to house to house to do parties. There's always like this fantasy conversation between guys that you walk in and it's just this gorgeous woman that's giving you thousands of dollars, the sugar mama, right? This type of scenario that usually never happens for guys. So when you walk into a scenario like that, it's surreal, because it's kind of like the dream of every, I don't even think of every male dancer, I would say of every young man, right? You just get this, you know, the dynamic is men are so accustomed to paying for sex. That's a man's thing, right? Like, how many guys in their lifetime can say, I was actually paid for sex by a gorgeous woman and thousands of dollars? Like, that just does not happen, man. It does not happen. So it was like, wow.
So the first time, what were you doing then when you were massaging her? What was Diddy doing?
He was across the room, sitting behind a table, kind of similar to this. And he was nude, and he was wearing a mask. He was concealing his identity. And it was one of those Muslim masks. Burkhardt testified to that. And he was kind of enjoying the show. He was giving, you know, minimal directions in terms of adjusting her body. I was told not to speak to him, not to look at him. So he would only talk to her to give directions to me. And at times you could tell he was self-pleasuring. He had some lube and he was masturbating, and just, it was, looking back at it, he was creating live porn for himself. We'll all at times pull out the phone and watch a video, and I guess when you have $1 billion, you put porn right in front of you.
How are you feeling when some man's having a wank behind you, though? That's a bit gay, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, I'm looking at her and $2,000, and I'm like, I got to get through this,
So he's got a burker on, having a wank, watching his missus being kind of pleasured.
Yeah, man.
Was she completely naked?
Yeah, so was I. and so the part of it that was really difficult, and I tell this story and whatever. It's all these years in the club, I can't hear. My hearing is trash, right? So I'm a little paranoid because he's walking back and forth, winking, right? And I'm on top of her trying to do stuff, and he'll give her directions, and he'll say something to her like, "Hey, babe, move a little bit to the right." And I can't hear, and I'm paranoid. And in my mind, I hear him say, his asshole looks tight. Right? And I'm like, what? So, I'm freaking out, right? Obviously, that's not what he was saying, but I was so paranoid that it gave me problems, bro. I would struggle getting an erection. I don't even know why they hired me so long, because it seemed like every other time I had a malfunction with some sort of issue. When it worked, but it was difficult, man. Like, having in that environment, man, it was difficult.
So you were just massaging her then at the start?
The very first time there was no sex, but every other time it led to intercourse.
And how was Cassie? Because we talk about this trafficking, like through the court case, I followed it. Like, it was the biggest court case in the world at that time, but was she free flowing with it? She wasn't in distress, she wasn't being forced?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I testified to. Like, I would never discredit what she said her experience was, in terms of, she said that she was doing that stuff against her will, but that's not what I experienced. So what I like to say is, if she was under some distress, she had an amazing poker face, because there was no way I could tell. And I'm not talking about just the sex. Like, sometimes I would be there for hours, and I would show up, she would greet me, we would sit down, we would catch up, how's work, how's this, how's that. We would have cordial, cool conversations. Sweetest girl. Then they'll put me in a room, I'll wait, she'll come get me, let's start. Everything will be completely normal during the session. And then once it was over, she'll come back to me, that was great, we'll call you again soon, thanks, everything was fine. Like, there was no moment where I could distinguish her in any type of distress or anything. And, I was actually I actually did not think I would ever testify, because I just assumed, once I found out it was other guys involved, I assumed that it was going to be incidents isolated from me, because I just didn't see anything that unfortunately could corroborate her experience. So I'm not sure why they called me.
Was he finishing the job when he was there? Was he coming?
Nah. I mean, literally, man, he was never close, right? He was across the room. So, and remember, I couldn't look at him, so everything is peripheral. So it was only kind of like slight sides or whatever. I don't know to what degree, but I know, and it was testified to this. After we were finished, they both would leave the room. And some of the other guys said it too, that like they would have sex like immediately, like after. So I guess him watching the live porn could turn him on to a degree where maybe he was ready for sex. And then maybe that's when they had sex. Because I did notice it would be scenarios where we would be right in the middle of what we were doing, and he would get up and walk out the room, and she would notice. She would walk out behind him and then come back. So I think there was some sort of cues going on, but I can't speak to anything directly. It's all speculation.
How long was it before they called again?
I mean, I probably would see them let's say 4 times a year, but it wouldn't be one time. So if they were in town, it would be Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. And then it could be 3 months. Then another Friday night, Sunday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. It would be multiple days in like over a weekend.
Was there alcohol or drugs involved?
No, so that's another thing I testified to. The only thing I seen her with was marijuana. And I would be always offered a drink, Ciroc. Right? I would always be offered a drink. Ciroc, 100%. I could get any flavor Ciroc right there. I'm like, I just make a flavor up. You know, you got, and then a cup of Ciroc. I'm not really a drinker, and I wasn't a marijuana smoker, so I was pretty much in my right mind. But I never seen that stuff.
Was he there every time you were there?
Every time. Every time. He would never start out in a room, but she would always greet me. She would always bring me somewhere to start. And then I could see out of my peripheral him come in the room at a distance.
Was it ever recorded?
So I'd never seen any recording devices or whatever, but near the end of the trial, there was conversations about they showed footage of the sexual activity, and it was time stamped on dates that I was there. So I think I was recorded, but okay.
What was it like the first time you'd slept with her? How did that come about? Whose idea was it? Was it hers or his?
Well, remember, I never spoke to him, so everything was her idea. So I kind of knew. Remember, I told you the first time it was just offered, hey, do you want to finish? And the second time, my cue that it was going to be sex, it was never, hey, we're going to have sex. But my cue was, I told you when I would get there, we would have casual conversation. And the conversation turned to, hey, have you been tested? What's your sexual health? What's your this, that, and the other? Have you been tested? I've been tested. I got my papers, this and other. So obviously, if I'm with a woman and she's asking me about my sexual health, it's because she wants sexual activity.
Did you know who she was?
I did not, man. I testified to it. He had a mask on, and she wore a wig. So, people familiar with Cassie, I would have recognized her if I saw her hair, because she had this hairstyle where it was shaved, but she wore a wig, and I could not figure it out, man. I feel like a dunce, because once I actually figured it out, which was in one of the hotels, they had a welcome message I cut on the TV, and I saw the, Essex House would like to welcome Mr. Sean Combs. So I figured it out. Then it clicked. But I couldn't see him. She introduced them as a married couple. So I did my Google searches, famous married couples, whatever, but nothing would come up because they're not married. And I was following them on Instagram, man.
Shut up.
Dude,
before you went there, you were following him?
Yo, all during the whole time, I was following him on Instagram. I used to see his posts. Like his posts, I had no idea.
What are you thinking then when you're shagging her? P. Diddy's having a wank behind you, then the penny drops that who you were doing it with. Like, what are you feeling? What are you thinking?
I felt like...
Because surely if you know who... Because that's a massive thing for them to bring in someone and know who Cassie was, because as soon as you know her, you know it's him, because there must have been tattoos as well. It's not easy. It's not difficult to search up P. Diddy's tattoos or whatever.
But I couldn't see him. He was across the room. And it was dark.
So every time you couldn't turn around or nothing?
I wasn't supposed to, and I wasn't trying to, man. I don't want to have eye contact with a guy winking. How weird is that eye contact? What am I supposed to do? What do you do with that, right? So I'm not looking at all, man. But I will tell you this. Once I found out, it was like a next level of validation, because the story I made up. I really made up this story that I was her hall pass guy. Hey, you could pick one guy that you see, and I thought it was just me, and it was like, wow, of all the men she could pick, she picks me, and then, like I said, then the case came out, and I was like, damn. and I was getting paid the least. I was like, yeah, that sucked. You know, like,
So was it never any parties or anything? Was it not big parties? I would imagine there was swingers and there's drinking, drugs the way they press talk, and there's baby oil everywhere.
that's why you can't listen to the media, man. You can't listen to what you hear on social media. It was nothing of the sort. I mean, obviously, he had famous parties. I'm sure at some of these parties they were turned into sexual activity. But what is considered a freak off is him, his girlfriend, and another guy. That's it.
Did
Nothing
he never
else.
try anything on you?
No, respectfully. He never, bro. He's never came near me. I never had eye contact. The first time I had eye contact with him was leaving the stand after testifying, walking out the courtroom. I never even had eye contact with him. No conversation, no. I don't think he was ever closer than 7-8 feet from me.
Because I don't see anything wrong with that. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't share my partner. I think if you love somebody, you do everything to protect them. But everybody's got different kinks. The different level of status and money these people have. There's no fun in materialism anymore. Whatever they want to do in closed doors, by all means, it's up to them. Because the media's making out he's this fucking gay man, paedophile, drugging everyone up. Like, because I was against Diddy, if I'm honest, at the start, because I was getting all these videos of Justin Bieber as a kid and spend 48 hours with P. Diddy, and when he was only like 14, 15, I think there's a lot more sinister stuff here. But when you actually break it all down, like the thing in the elevator with Cassie is fucking disgusting. It's brutal with the domestic abuse thing. But when you look at these sort of sex parties, there's nothing in that. If I'm completely honest, like how he's been charged and done with that is mind-boggling.
Yeah. You know, my theory of it has always been, you know, the same guys, the same people that started the case against Diddy are the same people that convicted R. Kelly. And I think there was a movement in terms of bringing to justice these male sex offenders, not just because of what they did wrong, but because the high profile, it's almost like a lawyer trying to build their resume. And there's, you know, I'm not big on speculation, but there was sayings that the guy who brought Diddy to court was somebody that was in the runnings of being attorney general if Kamala Harris won the election. And I firmly believe that this was just convicting Sean Combs is a career case. And if you are the attorneys or whatever that gets that conviction, you could ride that for the rest of your career. And I think he was aggressively overcharged and they went after him to try to, not necessarily if it was about the crime that was committed, but it was just the big name and bring him to justice. Because he was guilty of domestic violence. You just couldn't charge him statute of limitations. Right? So I think it's one of those where you can't get him for the actual crime, but let's get him for something, you know.
What about the baby oil stuff? Because the media says it was all laced with, is it GHB? GBH?
Listen, that's why it was funny. They confiscated 900 bottles of baby oil, and there was not one report of it being laced. And I always laugh because I was like, who's the poor guy in the lab? Like, another one? Like, he tested. Who tested all those bottles of baby oil? But that's what I mean, man. It's you listen to the media and it's kids being trafficked and this, that, and the other. They kind of tied him into as if he was like Jeffrey Epstein, you know. They gave him all of those things, and it just was an assassination of
I know a
character.
few models who partied with him, and they says there was never involvement with any kids or anything like that. There was nothing like that.
Yeah,
He says he used to have kids at his parties, but like family, his own kids.
Mhm.
And at 12 o'clock, people used to take their kids away to go home, and then the party probably started then.
Yeah, of course, man. Like look, that was just a public assassination of a character, you know, and I think it's sad. I mean, you know, obviously there's things that he's done wrong. I'm sure he has a ton of regrets, but the way you are portrayed in the media and the guilty before innocent, and anybody can just put anything out now. There's no fact checking or no recourse of what you just say. It's tough, man. So.
See, when you eventually knew who it was it different the next time you seen them?
No, not really. So when I figured it out, I didn't make it clear that I figured it out. I saw it on a TV screen. So I kind of knew, but I had already realized that, this man is going through lengths to hide his identity. So I'm just going to keep going with the flow, to keep it as is. By the time everything was said and done, it was obvious I knew, and she acknowledged it, and she kind of thanked me for, respecting their privacy and keeping things discreet or whatever. And that was just kind of it.
When was the last time? When did it stop with you and them?
So it started like October 2012, and it ended maybe March 2015.
So a few years back and forth, over 10 times?
Yeah, probably 12 to 15. I always say approximately 12, but honestly, I don't know. It could be more.
Because even in the court case, Cassie was saying she wanted to do another freak off, she wanted to do this. Now, by any means, I'm not trying to discredit her or whatever, because she got an out of court settlement, I think, for like 20 million. But could it have been, because I don't understand why you were a witness anyway, because it was more in favour for him, because you're kind of saying, listen, he never really done anything. Did anybody ever come forward to you and offer you money to say X, Y, and Z?
Oh, not at all, man. And so like I said, I was confused why they chose me to testify. But this is one thing I will say, man. Like, for whatever reason, after the case was over, a lot of the male escorts started reaching out to me. It was like we all started talking amongst ourselves. And I didn't speak to all of them, but I cannot find one that had an experience that said they thought she was doing it against her will. Not one of them. I mean, some of them saw, obviously, domestic violence between them, but they said, what I was told was the violence and stuff would be, there were levels of back and forth disrespect, One of the guys that I know really well, and he said this publicly or whatever, a few guys have said that there may be an insecurity with Diddy's size, and that's why he hires guys to kind of make that up. And then it'll be scenarios where slick kind of jabs were said, right, that could upset him, right, in terms of a smart comment or something, and he will react physically, which is completely wrong, but it was never a physical force to engage. They just had a from what I was told, for people that did witness violence and stuff like that, it was just a abusive relationship, just in general.
Could she have been the one instigating? Like, if you slagging a man's manhood, if she's not feeling in distress, could she have been the one who maybe wanted the male dancer, the male escort? Could she have been maybe the one who's convinced him to do so?
I don't think. Well, so this is what was a dynamic. She was instructed to find the guys and hire them. So she did have autonomy to some degree of who she dealt with. So, to me, that gives you some sort of
control.
Yeah, like if she can go out and pick the guys and say, all right, I want to hire this guy, or let's call this guy, or should we call this guy? It was kind of like a mutual agreed thing that they did. And like you mentioned earlier, there was multiple text messages of, expressions of enjoying them, and also let's do another one. Again, man, I don't want to align with a thought process of trying to discredit what she experienced, right? But I can see why he wasn't convicted, of sex trafficking, because there was just too much evidence that showed her willingness, and my testimony, right? My testimony of being somebody that was put on the stand, that when I'm being cross-examined, I did not see or get any indication that there were any issues. And
I think the word trafficking gets used too much though. So do you put, and as much as I've went against Diddy the last few years and not really understanding the full dynamics of it, but you've still got to look at it as if when he was going through all that, he's never phoned any prostitute, he's never texted any prostitute, she's the one who's done so. Could she have potentially been trying to build a case with him so she would have all this evidence that it's him who's done all that, to have been forced to do it, and she was being trafficked herself?
no. So this is what if you really look at the dynamic of how this happened, I don't think she ever wanted to testify. Absolutely. I would bet a large sizable money she didn't. So how this began was she contacted him way before the court case or anything, and demanded money from him. And it was a demand based on she was going to release a tell-all book. And if he didn't give her XYZ, she was going to put the book out. Now, me being somebody who wrote a book, I understand that just because you had a personal relationship with somebody and you were involved, you can't just put out a tell-all book. That is invasion of privacy. And you'll get sued, the publisher gets sued, and they'll snatch the book off. But if you file a court case and allege all of the things in your book in the court case and it's public record, now it's fine. Now you can release it. Now we know that the minute she filed the case, he settled. He settled, gave her the money she wanted, and now it's over. But we've seen with high-profile celebrities and actors and stuff like that, where there's a case filed, because it's filed civilly, not criminal, right? When there's a civil case filed, the authorities has to do their due diligence to look over the case to see if anything's criminal in here, and they can decide to make it a criminal case. We've seen that happen with, I don't know if you're familiar with Deshaun Watson, the football player that was getting them the happy ending massages. He got 100 lawsuits filed against him. They did the research. They said, we don't see a crime. That's why I didn't go criminal. In Diddy's case, they decided, with her details, they just decided we're going to pursue this criminally. And once they decided to do it, they forced her to testify, because if he's in jail right now for transportation, prostitution, the Mann Act, then technically she's supposed to be in jail too, because she set up and flew out escorts for the same thing. So I think they threatened her and said, listen, either you testify against him or you are his co-conspirator. And they gave us some sort of immunity, because there's no way he's in jail for transportation or prostitution, and she's not.
But they've obviously wanted him. So do you believe there's something more sinister that someone has set out to get him? I know people talk about Ciroc. I think there was deals broke down and money and stuff where people have then possibly set him up to then get this information, pay witnesses off. You know how they operate. You're going to prison as well if you don't tell us everything. People get scared of that, so are willing to just say it and do whatever the police say. But do you think there's a lot more sinister to Diddy's charges and conviction?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't really see how. So I've heard what you heard, right? So apparently he won, or he's in the process of winning some huge lawsuit with some large liquor company based on a deal he did, and he's supposed to get paid out like $1 billion. And I know with the RICO, what a lot of people didn't realize was if he's convicted of the RICO, they can confiscate his assets. That means a criminal investigation. So this guy who made $1 billion off of music, clothes, liquor, now because of the way his sex life was, now you can take all of his money. And so because it was only transportation for prostitution, that bypassed, but I don't know if he's convicted of a RICO. Does that absolve the liquor company from having to pay him? You know, or does that money just get confiscated? So I don't know. Like I understand there's a people believe that somebody really, really, really high was out to get them, but I'm trying to figure out, how do they benefit, right? You know, how do they benefit? Even if he goes to jail, does that mean people who owe him don't have to pay him? You know, I don't. I think people just love conspiracy, man.
Yeah, but then you look at the Michael Jackson stuff with Sony. He owns Sony, or half of Sony, but his catalogue was worth billions because he owned the Beatles catalogue and he owned other catalogues. M&M's, I think, as well. Like it was worth so much money. So sometimes it's just cheaper to kill these people or tarnish these people. Look at all the stuff that says about Michael Jackson. But Michael Jackson was under an investigation from the FBI for many, many years and never found one trace of evidence about being with kids, ever. They took all his computers, all the paperwork, and never found anything. But
So look, man, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but this is the one thing I would say about Michael Jackson, right? I think when Michael Jackson was alive, me or you couldn't get within 50 yards of his house without being caught on camera. So all I'm saying is, me, myself, if I love kids and I want to have them by, I got this amusement park in my house, and I'm so cool with kids that you can even come in my bedroom and hang out with me, right? If I do that when I'm accused one time, there's no way another kid would end up in my bedroom without a camera up in the ceiling recording everything. So to me, I always felt like, if you could get accused once of dealing with a kid inappropriately, and now your entire house is surveyed except for your bedroom, and you're going to constantly bring kids again over and over again and get accused over and over again, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I can say, put a surveillance camera. Then if they want to say you did something, it's all on video. Why wasn't it on video? And the fact that it wasn't on video, I'm sorry, it makes me think something was...
yeah, listen, possibility. There's no smoke without fire. There is a lot of dodgy interviews where you do question it, but Andy's paid out money as well to keep people silent. But there was also an investigation by the FBI and they never found anything. See, when you seen Cassie with the lawsuit and the civil case, what were you thinking when she got the payout back then, before the criminal case?
I mean, I didn't really think much of it, man, because honestly, I wasn't, for how much I was involved, I was not really groupie, like, watching it. Like, I understood it was...
What did your friends say? Like, you must have been telling your friends. Like, what were they saying?
So listen, man, so listen, I didn't tell many people, right? But I know there were a few people that I told during the time, like, yo, dude, I'm Cassie's boy toy, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And they're like, really? She calls you? I'm like, yeah, man, whatever. So I know I mentioned this to some people and it was like, I don't believe that guy is bullshit. But then when the case came out, oh man, listen, I can tell anything. I know I said it before. I can be like, yo, the spaceship comes down and the Martians, so I'd have sex with the Martians. And then they could be like, really? The Martians? They'll believe anything now because my credibility is forget it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
did you ever have feelings for her? Did you ever grow feelings towards her?
No. So I told you, everything was about it was
ego.
Yeah, it was an ego thing. And then even if this was one thing that I mentioned, even if there was an opportunity where I thought, maybe she likes me, it was one time she reached out and I was in an amusement park, like a few hours away, and she was like, hey, are you available tonight? And, I told you I see them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I was like, oh, man, I can't make tonight. Maybe can we just do it tomorrow? And she was like, oh, okay. Could you send somebody else? And I was like, I'm not special. You know what I'm saying? So that right there made it clear. This is This is not a connection. This is just a good time.
So how did the court case come about? How did you get called as a witness? What evidence did they have on you?
No, it wasn't necessarily with evidence. I mean, obviously she had to give them my information. You know, there was no one else involved. Like he's not going to give them my information. So she had to tell them I was involved, and the investigators just contacted me. And
that shows you that she has been compromised, because why would she give all those names if it's her that's calling them? So she's clearly made a deal beforehand. Tell us everything, because she's the one calling the mayor Escort. She's the one organising it. She's the one orchestrating it.
yeah,
He's only sitting there having a fucking wank.
yeah.
You know, so she's clearly been offered something. Because why give all those names up? Why not just deny it? Who knows? Because nobody else could prove it.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, I felt like, you know, again, if she's not testifying against him, she's a co-conspirator based on the charges.
What you thinking then when the police come knocking?
You know, man, I was in the now up until literally probably about a couple of weeks before the trial that I would ever testify. I just based on my experience and what I was actually involved in, I just didn't see how my testimony helped the government. You know, I have some theories now after the fact, but I didn't even get a chance to like even, because I was just like, they're not gonna call me. You know, they're not gonna call me. Like, what would they call me for? So, and then all of a sudden I'm on the stand. It was like, this was crazy. So I didn't really get a chance to process it. It was scary, obviously. You don't want the federal government, like the FBI, and showing up to your home, you know, but you know, I didn't really think much of it, you know. Maybe I was naive of the process, but I didn't think much of it till it became this huge thing.
What was Diddy actually charged with? What was his full charges?
It was sex trafficking, racketeering, and the Mann Act, which is providing transportation for prostitution, and that's the one he got convicted of. And there was no way around that. That's just literally buying plane tickets, hotel rooms and stuff where he flew, and it wasn't me. I only saw him in New York City, where he flew certain escorts to different cities to meet him and Cassie.
Did you feel a bit disappointed that you weren't getting flights to meet them?
So remember, man, I didn't find any of this stuff out to the trial. Like I thought I was the only guy, and I thought they broke up, and so we broke up. You know, they broke up and we broke up. You know,
as if you were being cheated on.
No, but I would tell you at times, I know when it was like publicly announced that they broke up when I was still involved. I was like, oh, that's it. They're never gonna call again. Like I remember having a reaction because, like I told you, man, like you know, my perception of it and this beautiful woman calling, paying me thousands of dollars was like a big deal, man, for my ego.
So how does it all work then when you have to work with the prosecutors to then give evidence? Like, how many days were you at court?
So I testified only one day, and it might have been an hour and a half. And I had maybe 3 meetings with the federal government prior where they just asked me a ton of questions. And then they did something which was called like a mock cross. A mock direct and a mock cross, where they get me in a room and one attorney is she's just going through the questions she's going to ask me, and then I have to answer them, and then another attorney act like Diddy's lawyer and then ask me a bunch of questions. And I think that's what threw my testimony off, because they assumed that Diddy's counsel was going to try to discredit me, was going to attack me, was going to attack my credibility. So in all of our mock, or let's call it like practice, for those that are aware, all of our practice simulation of the trial, they would say things to discredit me and try to rattle me and talk real fast and stuff like that to get me to say something, or try to get me to say something out of sorts. What Diddy's counsel actually did was the opposite. They affirmed my credibility. You know, the conversation was, hey, look, you've been a male entertainer for over 25 years. When you come into a room, you have to make sure that a woman is comfortable with your interaction, which is a fact, right? I can't just come in and just start jumping on people. I have to read the room to see who's comfortable with interaction. And they said, okay, and you got 25 years of experience with this. When you went to deal with Cassie, were you reading the room? Were you making sure that everything was cool? And that is a fact. I was reading the room and I did not get any cues of any distress or anything like that. And that was a whole different direction of how I was cross-examined to use my experience of gauging the scenario that it was consensual.
Yeah, it's such a strange thing. It's all weird. But how was Diddy looking? How was he looking at court?
Oh man, he was, you know, you can tell that the stress of everything in the moment had weighed on him, man. You could see the weight loss, the grays, yeah, you know, he was facing life in prison, so it took a toll.
Yeah, because you're in favour more for Diddy by not saying anything really negative. You know, why did he not use any witnesses, did he? Why would he not bring all the witnesses out to help with his character?
Because it's a risk. It's a risk. Like, look what happened with me, right? The government put me up there as someone to favor their case, and I ended up favoring the defense. So every time you put somebody on a stand, you take that secondary chance also, right? So, you know, his side felt like they didn't prove their case, and I think they were correct. You know, there was nothing that could directly, especially with my testimony, there was nothing that can directly lend to sex trafficking. And that was the whole point. I think him putting somebody up there just gave the chance of hurting, you know, if they were aggressively cross-examined or they said the wrong thing. So that was why it was smart.
How was it when it all was all over? How was it when he got convicted? Was that a lot of stress and pressure on your own life?
Yeah, I mean, I was in denial, man, but just going through that whole process, I didn't realize how much of a toll it just took in general on, you know, a good 4 months out of my life just became the interaction of that trial. And it kind of, you know, put me in a light or in a category where everything is just damage control. You know, damage control. Look, at the end of the day, made my decisions, I own them. You know, I will never say I'm a victim or whatever, but I went from just a normal guy to a worldwide known escort. Prostitute, right? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, and so now that's something that I have to manage for the rest of my life. Like, real story, man. Like I went to a funeral yesterday and it was a childhood friend's dad died or whatever. And I'm there and there's hundreds of people and I can tell it's like a fishbowl. Like, that's the dirty guy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's you know, it's just, it puts you in a limelight of everybody has an opinion and you gotta have thick, tough skin, man. But you know what? I'm built for it, man. I as crazy as it sounds, man, I'm happy for it. You know, I'm happy for it. We got one life to live, man. And you know, I think for how ugly this trial was and how things went and my involvement of it, I think the way that I ended up coming out of it is about as the best that I could hope for. You know, I don't think I don't think a large percentage of people look at me in a real, truly negative light. Just, I made some bad decisions.
Yeah, I think you come across good. You come across very calm. Even your previous interviews and what you done at court, I think you're very credible. I just think there's no bullshit. You're very open and honest. You're a stripper. That's what you've done. It's not as if you're denying it. It's just went worldwide. What are you going to do? It's going to have brought you more work, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, there's still a platform here, man. Because my biggest rejoice is the guys that read my book and they get that help, and I get messages and DMs and thank you for saying this, and it created that men's self-help platform for me that I can honestly say, without this exposure, I probably wouldn't have the opportunity on this level.
Do you think Diddy is gay?
I mean, if you listen to the stories, right? You listen to that documentary, and guys are waking up next to him with their butts sore. I mean, look, man, I don't know, man. Like, all I can speak on is from my experience, and like I said, I spoke to a bunch of the other male escorts. He didn't try anything with anybody. Obviously, he has enough money and enough power that if he wanted sexual experiences with men, but I don't want to look.
Speculate.
I'm 1000% straight guy, and if you look at half of the comments and half of the stuff or whatever, there's all this speculation about my sexuality. I think as a man, when you get to a certain point of popularity or notoriety where people know, there's just, for some reason, it's a thing to do is to question a man's sexuality. I don't know why is that. It's some sort, I guess, discredit or trying to drag him down. But
because it wasn't just one escort, though, there was many. So you don't know if he's getting his pleasure watching the man, or obviously maybe watching his missus getting fucked, but it's just strange behaviour for an A-lister. Like how they've been so brazen about it. It's not been really secretive. It's not as if it's just reading an ad and picking a number and just going for it.
Listen, bro, it's not strange behavior, man. If you think he's the only A-lister doing that.
Oh, no, there's plenty of it.
Yeah.
But just with his status, I just think they could have done it a bit more discreetly.
I mean,
or maybe that's their kick. Maybe
but but see, this is the thing. I don't think he had to do it discreetly. Like you got it's access, right? So if you are Sean Combs, right? So if in 2012, 2013, if I wanted to go on some platform, remember there wasn't social media where you can get 1,000 followers and just talk to the world, right? That wasn't a real platform back then for you to do that. But there were guys that came out that tried to say this, and nobody paid them any attention. There was no credibility. We just got to a point in society where you can speak on your sexual. That's what the whole Me Too movement and stuff was about, where now there were women that wouldn't come forward with being sexually assaulted because nobody would listen to them and nobody would believe them. So think about it. If women could not find a place to express and voice what was going on, who's listening to a man? And who's believing them? And it's very easy for them to get, I don't believe that guy. There was one of the escorts that picture was shown, his name is Jonathan Adi, and he did a interview years ago saying that he was doing exactly what we were all doing that came out in the trial. And nobody paid him no attention. And think about it, if you are Sean Combs and you have this type of control over the music industry and the media, and hey, look, you want to report on your music station that I'm doing these type of things, now you don't have access to my artists, access to this, you my music, like it's just certain things you just don't put out there based on how do you quantify it? Where's the credibility? If the only people in the room is me, Cassie, and Diddy, and I want to come out and go public with it, Cassie's not going to say nothing. Diddy's not going to say anything. So who's going to listen to me?
So you weren't using a condom?
Yeah, no, man.
Bareback?
Yeah, it's a wild boy, man.
I would have done this, brother. I'm gonna judge you.
Yeah, wow, boy, man. I was like, look, I done stuck my piece in a lot nastier.
So how was it then? Do you have kids?
No, thank God, man. Thank God
don't
I don't
have
have
kids?
to. Nah, man.
Even with all those women?
Triple black belt on the pullout, man.
Yeah, that's dedication, brother.
Yeah, dude. Just look, man, I'm so serious. I pull out when I jerk off.
So no kids, so you not have that sort of added pressure that your kids then know.
Yeah,
Everything
there was, luckily for me, there wasn't a person that when this information came out, it was like, oh man, like a level of embarrassment that I had to deal with, you know.
I think it's a cool story. I think it's not a bad story. It'd be different if he was fucking you. It'd be different if all that shit.
Yeah, that would have
you
been
were
cool.
hiding in a closet cage, you know what I'm saying, where you're fucked. You know what I'm saying? It's come out, Diddy's doing this to you, X, Y, and Z, and Cassie's all out, and you're thinking, what the fuck? Like, that's different. I think sleeping with her, him get the mask on, and like it's not that deep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they sensationalized it, man, to make it. But I think that worked in his favor. I think it worked in his favor that leading up to the trial was all this craziness, kids and trafficking and this, that, and the other, and when it actually came out, it was just him, his girlfriend, and bringing in another guy. I think that helped him because people were expecting to hear all this crazy stuff, and then when it just was that, it was like, that's it.
That's what I thought. I thought kids and Justin Bieber, and like my mind went with it because there was so much online. There was so much. That's why now you've got to step back until you hate everything. Even the 50 Cent stuff. Like I was a big fan of 50, but I think he's went a bit too much. Yeah,
I mean, I think.
And I think it's all because he was fucking his baby mama.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say, you know, 50's a cancer. I'm a cancer, right? So I think if I had somebody that I was associate with, like a peer, and I know this peer has access to thousands and thousands of beautiful women, like for him to focus to connect with my kid's mom. And not just connect with her on a way where I'm hiring dudes and we're doing this crazy stuff and all of that. I would feel away. And, you know, you can say that him going after that specific woman is a message and a fuck you to 50. And he said, fuck you back, you know.
He's not a man to have a grievances with because he's petty. He's so petty. But then Big Gene, the bodyguard who I interviewed, he said he used to do the same with Tupac. He used to sleep with all Tupac's ex-girlfriends. So he must have some fetish or some sort of control or power where that's his way of getting back at these people, a bit of jealousy, so he'll go the sort of dark route. So if he's done all that and it's malice, then fuck him as well, you know? Like I'm trying to look at all aspects and trying to go, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Like it's just... we just never know.
Yeah, and I don't even see that as a good guy or bad guy, man. I know multiple guys, and if we all really think about it, I know multiple guys that they have a thing where they'll see their buddy with a beautiful woman or whatever, and their envy competitive gene would want to go after that woman. And I know multiple guys personally who prey on and approach women that their friends been with, that I've been with. You know, I have one male friend that befriends every single one of my ex-girlfriends. You know, and so I think that's just something that men do. It's just when you see it in somebody of that status, it just creates something. You know, it's gonna stick out more. But that's common behavior.
Like, what about the erectile dysfunction stuff? Like, what sort of stuff? Like, what happens with it? Like, how did it start?
So for me, everybody tells you with erectile dysfunction, just take a pill. And what I had to, after years and years of taking all type of pills and doing, you know, going to see doctors and getting, you know, electric shocks and all this stuff to try to circulation, the PRP injections and all that, I realized that and this is a fact, more than 50% of men with erectile dysfunction is psychological. There's nothing wrong with you physically. And when I finally got a full workup, there was nothing wrong with me physically. It was all anxiety based. And once you have a failure sexually, it gets in the back of your head and you have another failure, then you depend on the pills. And if you have a failure with the pills, then forget about it. You become desperate. And the science behind it is anxiety releases a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol constricts your blood vessels. So if you're releasing cortisol in a sexual moment, it's not going to work. So, a quick way you can figure it out is if, like, I would have a scenario where I'll pop a Viagra and the girl will come by and it won't work. But then she'll leave and then I'm sitting in there watching Sports Center like this. You know what I'm saying? So if in the moment things don't work, but outside of the moment you can achieve it, then it's probably anxiety. And what another thing that is very important that I use that I should have just kept using because it's foolproof. I don't know if we can get in the UK, but in the US there's this company called Sword Vitality. And they sell this cream. So just like cars and stuff like that need maintenance, right? You can't just drive a car 100,000 miles with maintenance. Nobody teaches men how to have maintenance for your genital, right? I remember when I was 15 years old and I first started sex, you can blow on my unit and it's like, oh man, I can feel all the nerves and sensations as I get older. And it's like, man, if I put this condom on, I ain't gonna feel nothing, So they sell this cream that it's made of this cacao powder and a mixture, and you actually, like a lotion, you rub it in and it rejuvenates the nerves and everything in your penis. That I was using this thing successfully for years, and it was like everything. It actually, the rejuvenation can give you a little bit extra size. And I would tell a guy, if you're dealing with it, first figure out if it's anxiety. I would try something like this Sword Vitality company, which that cream works wonders in terms of regenerating your nerves and healing yourself. And it's like a good product or something sort of something similar to that, something that'll heal you holistically, and don't just pop the pills, because the pills, all the pills do is open your blood vessels. That's it. It ain't doing nothing fantastic. It just opens your blood vessels for more blood flow. But if you deal with the anxiety of it, you're gonna constrict them, and your anxiety is stronger than the pills. And as far as just if you want a little bit more size, or if you want more sensation, or just heal you from a real holistic way, then I would try that product.
But could it have also been with all the women you've slept with and all the stuff you're putting around your dick with the pumps and stuff?
Absolutely not, man.
Nah?
I told you I went to the doctor. Nothing wrong. Regular blood flow, regular whatever. I told myself.
How common is this?
Like I told you, man, more than 50% of cases. And look, I don't have to tell you how common it is. I don't know how TV works here, but I guarantee you, you'll be here tomorrow. It'll be NFL games on, right? Every time there's a commercial break, you're going to see a commercial for Viagra, Cialis, testosterone boosters. If you go into any corner store, you can see the pills behind the counter. It's an epidemic of men struggling, and they want to keep us struggling, right? They want to keep us struggling because it's big money. It's big money. And, me, myself, before I really understood to the fullest degree, I wanted to fix it at all costs. So I went out and got a penis implant, right? So that's something that's not told to men, because it's a one-time fix and it's the best fix ever. So you got men with diabetes, circulation problems, prostate cancer, stuff like that they don't even pitch this to as a something to correct the situation, because it's more money to write you a script and you just on the drugs and the insurance company paying for the surgery, which is covered. And then that right there, Man, this implant, man, I feel like a superhero, man.
So what's the penis implant?
So, the way you get an erection is on either side of your pee hole. There's 2 straws that run from your testicles to the tip. These straws is what fill up with blood when you get an erection. What they'll do with a penis implant is they'll make a small incision in your testicle and they put cylinders. Listen, I hear you, bro, but trust me. They put cylinders in up these straws. Now, mind you, you made the pain face, but all your nerves and stuff is on the outer. They're deep inside. So it's almost like somebody who has like a metal rod for like their bone, right? You don't feel that, right? So what this did was it gave me control of my erection. I can literally, they put the 2 rods in, they connect it to a little pump that they drop in your testicles. So my testicles feel like I have like 3 nuts, like 3 testes, right? You can't tell, it's inconspicuous. And then they put a little reservoir somewhere in your body by your bladder. They put a little reservoir and they put saline fluid in it, the same fluid that's for breast implant. And when it's time for sex, I can just give my balls a couple of clicks. And my man, like the name of my book, freezer meat, hardest meat you ever could come across. And listen,
There's like a set of Reebok pumps in there.
yeah, I got the pump. I got the pump my balls, and it's a problem.
Is that what it is? Like you can press the pump and it goes?
Yeah, man. You press it and you can control. It's not like one pump and it's like, but it's. I would say it takes about 40 pumps to get fully erect, and it's the hardest erection you can get. Everything works normal. You're still gonna orgasm. You're still gonna get the sensations. You're still gonna get all the benefits of sex. But now I have a never-ending erection, man. It doesn't go down unless I put it down.
How much was that?
Here in the States, I'd used the best doctor at the time, and it was 32 grand, 32K. And my man, if you told me right now, it was 320 grand, I'd be like, sign me up. What it does for you as a man, especially if you're struggling with your sexuality, it's, man, yeah.
How long is that procedure?
The procedure itself is like 20 minutes long. It's not
What?
Yeah, it's like it's a 20-minute procedure. I will say the first 3 days of healing is a bitch, but it's well worth it, man. Like, for me, struggling with sexual performance, and remember, there was nothing wrong with me, man. This was mental. I was just so far gone. I didn't want to go through the process of trying to get my mind right. I just wanted a fix. I wanted to be sexual. I wanted my sexual ability back, and then I'll work on whatever mental stuff from that point. And I think this is an option for men who are really struggling. It should be spoke about more. It should be put out there more because, I know a lot of guys who got into their mid-40s, early 50s and started having issues and kind of just, there's this thing where they tell us well, I'm aging, this is what happens, and you just accept it. And you should never trade away your sexuality.
Yeah, because I think there's a thing called Peyronie disease as well.
Peyronie's, yeah.
Where it's like the scar tissue. But it happens in like over 20-30% of males, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Peyronie's, so one of the things that they prescribe to you when you're dealing with erections is the injections. You mentioned it about the porn stars and stuff. And injections, that's another thing that over a period of time will create scar tissue. And it can give people Peyronie. So that's why I didn't even want to. I got to the point where the injections were an option for me. But then when I saw, hey, look, you can develop the Peyronie's, it was no way. And I don't know if somebody with severe Peyronie's, if the implant is down, you got to consult your doctor. But I think if you're out there and you're struggling with your sexuality, and you've tried all the other things and nothing's working for you, you should definitely look into it, man. If your sex life matters to you, don't. Too many guys give up on it, man. Do not give up on your sex life,
How are you feeling today, brother?
dude. I'm fantastic, dude. I'm here talking about the stuff I love, my life. I'm honored to be on your show, man. Thank you. Thank you for being here, because this is dope, man, to sit here and talk about this stuff, man. This is fantastic, man.
Yeah, the Americans are different. Like it's such easy conversations with Americans. Like I love New York. I love the people. I love Americans. I think they're brilliant. I think their honesty, I think it's something to be admired. You know, because people are just so open about their life, what they go through, what they've done. That you're just here sitting saying you've got a pump in your balls, it works, like you're happy with it. Like, there's no airs or graces, and I think it's a beautiful thing. That's why I enjoy conversations here, because they flow. And I'm surprised you understand my accent. Okay, I can see you concentrating a little hard. You know, I don't want.
Yeah, it took in the beginning. I was like, but I caught on. I got the cadence. I got the flow. I caught on. So nah, we're good.
So, what's plans for the future?
Man, look, I'm just back at it, man. Like I'm gonna go full force into the men's self-help stuff. You know, my book, In Search of Freezer Meat, is it's the mental health crisis that's erectile dysfunction causes, and that's helping a lot of men. You got your hardreset.com. That's going to be a community with some tools to help, get your masculinity back, get your sex life back from a way that's not just get a private jet and a Lamborghini and the girls love you. It'll really teach you how to heal those wounds that you said we never really heal. And I'm just going to go full force with that, man. I think there's a lane there. And one thing that I didn't really speak on, I actually have a meeting after my book, because there's all of these personal stories, and they're hilarious, man. It's not a serious book. I make fun of myself, makes like they're hilarious. I'm actually into serious talks where they want to take my book and make it into a series.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Look, for people who maybe want to reach out, because it's such a sensitive topic, that sort of stuff, and a lot of people don't want to speak about it so freely. But just in case, what's your social medias for people to drop you a follow or give you a message, maybe ask you questions?
Oh, absolutely, man. It's at Get Punished on Instagram. You can reach me. Again, it's yourhardreset.com. That's where you'll be able to find a community. The book is In Search of Freezer Meat. There's also a website, freezermeated.com. Any of these places you can reach me. And I get guys that DM me daily. I answer questions, man. I'm passionate about this. Please don't hesitate, man. Reach out if you're struggling, if you need your mind right and to get your mojo back and get back. I was there, man. I went from like a sex symbol guy with all the girls to completely losing myself as a man, and it happens to a lot of us, and we need to support each other and get things back. So do not hesitate to reach out, whatever way you can catch me.
Did you ever get therapy?
No. I never went for therapy. So this is a real story. The biggest trauma and betrayal that I had, the woman was a therapist. She was a therapist, and she actually used her being a therapist against me. I remember when I first met her, she gave me all of these surveys to fill out and these tests to take and all of that, and she kind of diagnosed me and then used the diagnosis and understanding of me to dive into my vulnerabilities. And, learning about therapy, dealing with her for years, and not saying there's not great therapists and there's not a benefit from it for some people, but you have to know what you want to work on and be willing to work on it from that space for it to really help you. If not, you're just, to me, going to the event. And a lot of times working on this thing here, I didn't even understand what was going on with me to work on it. I didn't know. And it took some deep understanding. It took correcting my sexual issue to a foolproof scenario to then realize, all right, this is the deeper part of it, right? This is the deeper part of it that I didn't understand, that I couldn't help myself with, but maybe I can help others now. And maybe you don't have to get an implant, even not saying you shouldn't, but there's steps that I probably could have took before that I didn't have the understanding to, because again, who wants to talk about this stuff? The shame where you sweep it under the rug. So you have to be put in a platform, a real safe scenario to talk about it openly. And look, I'm gonna be the first one to do it. Was you at 800,000 subscribers? Gonna know I click my balls, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Talk to you on it. I think that clip will probably go viral, brother. What do you think then, for anybody that's maybe struggling right now? First of all, just before we finish up, do you think you'll ever settle down?
Do I think of who?
Do you think you'll ever settle down?
Do I think I ever settle down? I want to. Like right now, with the understanding and the healing that I have, it's 100% possible, man, because there's no more validation. You know, one of the biggest problems as men, and we're wired, society now has us looking for validation in all the wrong things. And now that I understand that my validation is inner, it's within me. It's not what my woman thinks. It's not the car I got parked outside. It's not the amount of money in my bank account. It creates a whole. It creates me as a whole person, which I never even felt before. You know, from as long as I can remember, I've been validating myself through other things, and now feeling whole, my connections are different now. So yeah, I think for the first time in my life, I think I definitely could settle down.
For anybody that's watching, that's maybe in a life of struggle, what advice would you have for them?
You know, the first thing I would say, if you're struggling as a man, whether it be sexually, mentally, emotionally, any of those spaces, man, the first thing you have to do, and it may sound cliche or whatever, is you have to ask yourself, is the person you are really you? And that sounds simple, but that's, you know, we go through so many changes as men in terms of being the man that our woman's gonna love, being the man that's gonna be respected by our friends, being the man that makes our parents proud, being the man that shows up as a good dad. And all of these changes based on other people's needs, you lose yourself. And I lost myself to a degree where I didn't even know who I was. Like the person that I woke up that I was every day was just a whole bunch of characters that I was playing. And as long as you're stuck in these characters, you'll never feel whole. So I think the first question that a man has to ask himself is the person that I show up as every day, is that who I am? Or is that a collection of facades and masks that I put on to present to the people that I love, and I'm sacrificing, right? Because this is who they need. It's the first thing a man has to do.
My brother, would you like to finish up on anything else?
No, bro, this was great. I'll just reiterate it for the 15th time. Book In Search of Freezer Meat. Amazon, all platforms. Your Hard Reset. Learn about a penis implant. You don't want to do the implant, try Sword Vitality or some other supplements, but then reach out to me anytime, fellas. You know, this is a movement, man. We got to support ourselves as men, and getting older doesn't end anything, man. Just, you know, the world is still yours, man, and you got to look at it and believe it that way.
Just a roundup sort of thing as well, like, because you lived it firsthand with the Diddy and Cassie stuff and you were at the court case, like, what's your whole rundown on it? Just a short version, your whole rundown of that sort of experience with them both. What do you think happened? What do you think it was all about?
You know, early on in this interview, I mentioned that I stopped dating single women because I understood that they have hopes of love and relationship in a bigger picture. And when I realized that I was just there for sex and I was wasting their time and wasting a woman's time, especially if she connects to you, is a deeply traumatic thing. I think Diddy and Cassie's relationship was the highest level of that. I believe Cassie, as a very young woman, turned herself into whatever Diddy needed. And she had this crazy sexual life and she experienced all these things. And at the end of the day, they went their separate ways. He's off doing it with another woman and she's picking up the pieces. And I think from just an emotional betrayal, hurt scenario, that was extremely impactful for her. And she gave away, her prime years of her life. And she felt that she wanted some sort of restitution and recourse. And I'm not even necessarily faulting her for that. And I really say, and beat me up for it, I think it was a resentment of a woman who gave her all and beyond to a man that amounted to nothing. She needed to be okay. She wanted to be taken care of it as if they were married and it was a divorce and a settlement or whatever. And then on that facet, and that just spiraled into a criminal case circus.
Mm-hmm. My brother, listen, I thoroughly enjoyed your story. I wish you nothing but the best for the future. And I look forward to see what you do. Hopefully you can stay out of trouble. But yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Good luck and all the best.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate you, man.